Let's dive into the Steelers' preseason performance so far, focusing on their recent game against the Detroit Lions. I'm going to talk about the quarterback situation, specifically Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. No disrespect to Cal Allen, but he's not a key player in this discussion. In my opinion, Russell Wilson should be the starting quarterback. The mainstream media seems eager to make Justin Fields a franchise quarterback, but I don't think that's going to happen. Fields has a lot of potential, but he still needs significant development, and I don't believe this coaching staff can provide that. If he were in a different situation, it might be a different story. Mike Tomlin has never had to develop a quarterback because he always had Big Ben, one of the greatest quarterbacks in Steelers history. Going with a veteran like Russell Wilson is the right move. Wilson isn't perfect, and he's not going to single-handedly win games, but he's reliable. Last season, he threw 26 touchdowns to only 8 interceptions, which is far from terrible. He's less likely to turn the ball over than Justin Fields. Justin Fields has had a tough time, especially with the Chicago Bears. He often struggles with holding onto the ball too long and not recognizing blitzes. We've seen him make some great plays, but those highlight reels don't always translate to winning games. Against the Lions, we saw him miss a snap because he wasn't paying attention. His struggles under pressure and with reading defenses are clear, especially when compared to someone like Wilson, who is better at making quick decisions and staying in the pocket. Neither Wilson nor Fields is likely to lead the Steelers to a lot of wins this season. The defense will have to carry the team, as it has in the past, especially during Big Ben's later years. Even when Ben was past his prime, he was still better than the current options. Justin Fields is exciting to watch, but that doesn't mean he's ready to lead a team to success. He's still learning, and the NFL defenses are tough. Russell Wilson might not be as fast or have as strong an arm as Fields, but he's smarter with the ball and more consistent in his decision-making. The offensive line is still a big question mark. While they showed some improvement against the Lions, we have to remember that they were facing third-string players who might not even make the team. Dan Moore Jr. isn't performing well at tackle, and Broderick Jones needs to play his natural position. I still have high hopes for Jones, but the line overall needs work. If the line struggles in the preseason, it often carries over into the regular season, which could spell trouble for the Steelers. The wide receivers also raise some concerns. Roman Wilson missed the entire preseason with an ankle injury, leaving George Pickens as the primary target. Calvin Austin has potential, but he's still developing. Van Jefferson isn't a true number 2 receiver. He's more of a number 3. Without Roman Wilson, the receiving core looks shaky, though Pickens has shown promise. In conclusion, while the Steelers have some challenges ahead, especially on offense, I trust Mike Tomlin to get the most out of this team. Whether they finish 9, 8, or worse, Tomlin's job is secure, and the Steelers will continue to fight hard this season. I have to say, I appreciate what Omar Khan did this offseason by bringing in Russell Wilson and Justin Fields to upgrade the quarterback room from Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett. However, I'm struggling to forgive him for trading Deontay Johnson for Dante Jackson. No offense to Jackson, but he's a cornerback who struggles to stay healthy. I get that Deontay Johnson had his moments where he didn't block or recover fumbles, but he was still a proven number 1 wide receiver for the Steelers. His dip in production was more about the poor quarterback play from Pickett and Trubisky than his own shortcomings. Johnson may not have been a top 10 receiver, but he took a lot of pressure off the offense. Even if the offensive line improves and plays more consistently, the wide receiver room remains a problem. On paper, this might be the weakest group the Steelers have had in over a decade. That's not an exaggeration. Calvin Austin III could be hurt by poor quarterback play, but at least Johnson managed over 700 receiving yards last season, despite missing much of it with a hamstring injury. George Pickens can step up as the number 1 receiver, but if defenses focus on him, who else is going to get open? Pat Freiermuth showed promise as a rookie tight end with Big Ben, but he hasn't reached that level since. I'm hopeful Arthur Smith can get him more involved, but there are still a lot of questions surrounding the offense. Yes, they made the playoffs last season with a subpar offense, but that was largely due to the defense being one of the best in the league. The defense carried the team, and they relied heavily on Najee Harris, with Mason Rudolph stepping in for the last 3 games. This season, things will be tougher. The Steelers have one of the hardest schedules based on last year's winning percentages, but I still expect them to finish 9, 8, as Mike Tomlin just doesn't have losing seasons. However, there are questions all over the offense, except for the running backs. Najee Harris is a standout, consistently rushing for over 1,000 yards every season. Despite a shaky offensive line, Jalen Warren might miss week 1 due to a hamstring injury, but they have Cordarrelle Patterson, who's versatile and can take on some of the backup carries behind Harris if Warren isn't ready. As for Justin Fields, I'm not going to sugarcoat things. He's fast, but he's not Russell Wilson. Wilson is more accurate and composed. That's just the way it is. When it comes to the defense, you all know how I feel about TJ Watt. He's the best defensive player in the NFL, hands down. Cameron Hayward is nearing the end of his career, but Keanu Benton shows promise as his long-term replacement. I'm a big fan of Alex Highsmith too. The Steelers have 2 solid pass rushers, and their linebacking core looks strong with Patrick Queen and Elandon Roberts, who played well down the stretch despite injuries. Cole Holcomb is still recovering from a knee injury, but was solid when healthy. Patrick Queen and Elandon Roberts should hold things down, and Peyton Wilson, if he can stay healthy, is a beast. The secondary, however, is a bit of a question mark. Joey Porter Jr. has the potential to be a true number 1 corner, but he needs to clean up the penalties we saw in the preseason. Dante Jackson, acquired in the Johnson trade, fits Coach Tomlin's defense well, but staying healthy is a big concern. Minkah Fitzpatrick remains one of the best safeties in the NFL, and while Cameron Sutton is suspended for most of the season, he's just an okay player, not the lockdown corner some think he is. The big question marks for the Steelers are still offensive line protection, quarterback play, and finding a reliable number 2 receiver to play alongside George Pickens. I'm really hoping that Roman Wilson can step up. Otherwise, it's going to be a long season. Watching the Steelers preseason was tough. Last year, they looked great with Kenny Pickett and Najee Harris shining, but this year, they didn't look nearly as dominant. The most points they scored in a preseason game was 17. Russell Wilson had a solid game against the Lions, but it was against third stringers and practice squad players. Let me know in the comments if you think I'm being too harsh or if I'm just expecting too much. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button, and if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Before the regular season starts, I want to ask, do you believe the Steelers will make the playoffs this year? Most importantly, stay safe and stay positive. Thanks for watching, and God bless. Peace.